Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens with your hosts, Jake and Scott. In tonight's episode, we're featuring a new old friend of the podcast. We have Mike Montgomery, VP of Spirits from Coors Whiskey Co. You may formerly know him from Blue Run Spirits. Still the same company, still making great liquid. So we're catching up on everything happening under the sun with Five Trail and Blue Run and what else is happening in Golden, Colorado, maybe, and Kentucky. And so sit back and buckle in and listen to the latest episode of the Bourbon Lens. Mike, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. It's nice to see you guys.
Yeah, we were reminiscing beforehand. It has been a while since we've caught up. Time flies. It didn't seem like 2 years, but it has been 2 years. And a lot has happened in your all's world. But before we get into that, you know, what's new in the life of Mike? What's happening there?
Oh boy, there's a lot that's new in the life of Mike. You know, I think life comes pretty fast at all of us, and you know, my daughter, who was 9 or so when we launched Blue Run, is now a teenager, showing teenager tendencies and amazingness as well, and you know, just really settling into to this new direction, and pretty happy with you know, where we came from and where we're going. Yeah,
I think the news kind of shocked us all last year when, you know, we found out we had actually just gone to a Five Trail dinner, and Scott, it might have been a week or two later that the press release came out that the partnership was happening.
Yeah, it was pretty close in time. It was like, what? Yeah. How did this happen so quick?
Yeah.
Why didn't they tell you?
Yeah, I was like, come on. And David Coors was there, along with like the head salesperson. And we were like, oh, come on, man. You got to clue us into these things. You got to give us a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know, pay attention to what's happening.
You guys met the great John Bastuga.
Yeah. He's a big personality.
Yeah, he has a big personality. He's a great guy.
Yeah. And probably one of my favorite food dinners I've had in the bourbon world, because we ate at Watch Hill Proper. It was great. I challenged my limits on my palate from a food perspective. I ate beef tartare for the first time, and I felt real fancy. So, you know, we'll take it. We'll take it.
That's, you know, what I've heard is that beef tartare is a lot better tasting than chicken tartare.
Oof.
And safer.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't necessarily care for, I barely like touching chicken uncooked. So I couldn't imagine it raw. That just, no, thank you.
Yeah. I think I'll pass on that myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's been really cool to kind of see that happening, and watch the combination between the companies. So what was that like, you know, moving from, you know, this startup hustle culture in Blue Run and moving to a publicly traded company as a subsidiary as Coors Whiskey Co?
Well, I think it's eye-opening. You know, the goal for Blue Run is to maintain that startup feel, but also to be able to leverage the strength of the machine at Molson Coors. So it's kind of a balancing act, because you know, the power of a massive publicly traded company that's got so many you know, household name brands, you know, it helps quite a bit. But there's also some magic that Blue Run brings to the table, and we don't want to lose that at all. Right? We don't want to, you know, you don't want to forget who you are when you get, you know, called up to the big leagues, right? You still want to swing the bat the same way and carry yourself the same way. And that's the goal for us, is just to maintain the progression to the extent possible. And then, you know, the strength of the machine helps us sharpen what we do, you know, as we grow.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. It's like, how do you combine the best of both worlds in that machine, right? Because one thing you all always need was capital. Making barrels is not easy, and having a machine like you mentioned in the Molson Coors brand portfolio it's nice to have that buying power behind you, right? To kind of push you over the edge. But now you have to balance your time, right, with having another product in your portfolio and Five Trail. So what's it like now to kind of split your mind and concept working with that Five Trail, which is a really unique whiskey, and then your traditional bourbon and rye in the Blue Run spirits?
Well, I have to admit, I kind of like it. And I think my brain works differently than the average brain. I can't read one book at a time. I have to read multiple books. And it's just, I'm just wired in a slightly different way. And so, going from Blue Run, where it was just blinders on, all Blue Run, 23 and a half hours a day, versus this. And also point out that we, aside from Blue Run and Five Trail, we also have Barmen 1873. And so there are three brands under the umbrella. And I like it because there's a way to think through how they interplay, how they work with each other. And you can take more of a portfolio perspective versus just, okay, we have one brand with a bunch of SKUs, which is great, but the ability to have three different brands at three different price points that can help satisfy a variety of consumers, and meet them where they're at, right? So you've got Barmen that's hitting shelves around $40, and Five Trail that's hitting shelves around $50, and Blue Run that's in the 70 to 90 retail shelf price. It really just they all complement each other very well, and they don't step on each other's toes, because they're different, right? Each, Blue Run is all Kentucky liquid and only Kentucky liquid. And as you guys know, Five Trail is a blend of a variety of different liquids. And then Barmen is Kentucky and Indiana. And they're all wonderful. It's kind of like, the way I like to think about it is, I don't like my book reading. I don't want to drink just one bourbon forever. There's a bourbon for every occasion, every feeling, every mood, every meal. I can probably go on and on, but I don't want to bore your listeners here. But there's a bourbon for everything. And so I think that we've done a very good job in a very short amount of time of elevating each brand and attempting to allow consumers to experience what we're all about. And we hope to do much, much more of that as we go. But, we're what, guys, maybe 8 months in.
Yeah.
And so, I'm still in this place where I'm still learning where the light switches are, and, who does what and how things work at a big company versus a very, very small company. Yeah. And I like it. I mean, I've got a great amount of intellectual curiosity that helps drive me. And, we have a great team of people that have really come together, which is difficult because we're a little bit like the Brady Bunch, apologies to your younger listeners, but, we've kind of taken two families and jammed them together. And, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, it's really working well.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things like you've done to elevate your brands, like for Barmen, and I excuse me for forgetting about the brand, was the partnership with Lainey Wilson, right? So go take one of your mass country stars and pair that with her, and bring that to, I believe it was Nashville, to like really bring out the brand and showcase what a celebrity partnership could mean. And it seemed like it went off without a hitch.
It sure did. And it's super cool, isn't it, guys, to think that, if you look back at Blue Run, we didn't have that sort of ability to attract someone like Lainey Wilson, but at Molson Coors, it's just flip through the Rolodex, and they make some great things happen. And I think that, the pop-up bar that we did in Nashville, was really cool, a lot of fun for people, and I think it did a great job of showcasing Barmen as a real up and comer in the whiskey space. So I think people had a lot of fun. Did you guys go?
No, we didn't go, but saw some stuff.
And it's a fun partnership. Lainey Wilson is not someone who is just getting her start. Like, she is a bona fide superstar. People from all walks of life and all different ages are really into her and her music, and it's just a really good fit. So it's fun to think about what the future can look like for the brands, and what new and exciting surprises we can offer to the consumer base.
So for the listeners that might not be familiar with any of the three particular spirits brands, I would kind of describe them as like having their own personality. Like Blue Run, I see as the super premium, the brand that people chase and follow, and they get real hyped about it. They're like true passionate fans. It's like those are the people that love Blue Run. With Barmen, is that brand trying to be like the culture, like the music, the bar culture, not the party, but like bring that element? And then I kind of see like Five Trail is kind of the in between, like it's the experimental, like the people that want to branch out from Kentucky bourbon and maybe explore single malts, but not quite there yet. Is that how you would kind of describe them for people that might not be familiar?
Yeah, Scott, I think mostly that's right. I think that with Barmen, I think that Barmen is the most approachable product in our in the brand of the family. And I like, I don't know about you guys, but I like a variety of different bourbons, but I love bourbons that are approachable for people who are brand new to whiskey, but also enjoyable for people who've been, who are pretty experienced whiskey drinkers as well. And I think Barmen checks both of those boxes, right? It's proofed at a, I think 92 proof. And so it's not going to blow your head off when you drink it. I like to, I think you guys know, I like to talk about like, hazmat as being the type of bourbon that you need a steak knife to cut your way through. And sometimes it can be really, really difficult. And sometimes that difficulty can be enjoyable for people, but sometimes it isn't, especially if you're brand new, right? We've have all this world of whiskey enthusiasts isn't just this small little like cabal of people who used to, who are into it. Now it's growing, and it's like, there are people drinking bourbon you wouldn't expect to be drinking bourbon anymore. And so as that world of bourbon drinkers continues to expand, you need entry points. And, for Blue Run, it's Reflection. I'm not sure. I don't think you guys are drinking Reflection tonight, but, for Blue Run, it's Reflection. Barmen can be that too. And then you're right, Scott, with Five Trail, it is experimental, right? Because I think that American single malt is something that I think people have interest in, but sometimes they just need to be acclimated to it, right? Because it's a new flavor sensation, and so I really think it's interesting also with Five Trail that there's always what we call this guest bourbon. And it can be, an age-stated bourbon from a state that's not Kentucky. And they change along the way. So you get these really unique expressions that give, I guess across the board, they give everybody something, right? There's something for everyone is probably the better way to say that. If I can get the words in the right order on the second time around. And I think it's just, I love to line them up and see where my palate takes me. And I think people should do the same. I mean, you can take them as standalones, or you can say, hey, this is a family of brands, and I'd like to see I'd like to drink my way through it. And it's really interesting to do. We should do that, in fact, one of these times.
Yeah. Don't tempt me with a good time. I'm here for all the good times. And I think the cool thing about each of those, for me, is if you put them blind, you may be able to pick out Five Trail, but it's so subtle, like the nuances, because you've partnered with like great people like Peggy and the people at Georgetown Bourbon Company to help really make that shine and be approachable for a lot of folks. That like you could probably trip people up if you did a Reflection, a Five Trail, just straight Five Trail, and a Barmen. That would be a really fun, like, blind.
I think you could, especially if you went blind.
Yeah. That'd be a cool experience. Like you were talking about, we were talking about Trey a little bit beforehand, like as he creates experiences for people to think across the if he could go across the portfolio, that'd be pretty interesting to do that from a customer experience perspective, man.
I think so. Shout out to Trey Wade. For your listeners, Trey is the head of consumer experience for the Coors Spirits Company, and he's running the Chosen program, which is a single barrel program. So if you're looking for your own single barrel, Trey is the guy to hit up. And talk about threatening somebody with a good time. Trey is a good time, a great person to just sit back and drink whiskey with and talk. And so for anybody out there, reach out to Trey, reach out to me also. As you guys know, I'm always accessible, and that may be a fault to some, but I really like to be accessible. I like to talk to people because I'm just like you. I'm like every listener here. I like whiskey. I like to talk to people. I like to hang out and have a good time.
Yeah. So let's talk about the whiskeys a little bit in a little bit deeper tone. Like, and Scott kind of mentioned this. So when I look at just bottle shape to begin with, I think Barmen goes in the bar, right? And it kind of plays off its name. And you get into the premium spirits where that may not be cocktail culture. Like, so are you looking to set them aside, or are all of these being able to pull into that culinary cocktail renaissance as well, right? Even if you go into the ultra premium spirits that, ultra premium and bourbon is like 75 plus. It's really not crazy like tequila or something. So just curious on like, how does your all's brand portfolio fit into the culinary and cocktail world?
Well, I think it fits in quite a bit. In fact, Trey's done a few dinners that have had a tasting menu built around the different products, and they've been an absolute hit. So culinary, I guess we'll start with culinary, and then we'll move into cocktail a little bit. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about cocktail first, because my theory on cocktails is that I want to make a cocktail, or I want to drink a cocktail that's made with premium ingredients, right? Like so often, maybe in the last 20 years, you drink a cocktail and it's like, well, the spirit base is a well pour. And I don't think that's necessarily how you actually end up at a truly great cocktail. I think you've got to have premium ingredients start to finish. And so, when let's say I'm drinking a paper plane, I've been making my paper planes now with Emerald Rye. And I just think it's such a different experience. You can make, whether it's a Manhattan or a Boulevardier or, a sour, whatever your favorite bourbon drink is. I think premium ingredients truly matter. In terms of the culinary experience, each spirit lends itself to a culinary experience. With Blue Run, we have the largest variety of SKUs to play with, from a double oaked rye to a rye single barrel to Reflection or high rye bourbon, which, by the way, is my go-to, the high rye bourbon. I think it's truly fantastic, and that was the first Jim Rutledge juice that we actually bottled. So culinary is great. It's probably also good to be drinking and eating food at the same time. But you can pull out so many nuances from the liquid with each different expression. I particularly enjoy the high rye bourbon and reflection with something like duck, or even like a pulled pork. I think is fantastic. And I don't know, there are variety. We should bring a chef on to talk with me, because that would be really fun. But it's pretty endless what you can do with the bourbon. But my favorite way to drink bourbon, I think you guys know, is I take a glass and I pour bourbon in it and then I drink it.
You're a good man. You're a good man.
No frills.
No
frills. It's just as they say, as God intended. But I will quote the great Jim Rutledge, who said, the best way to drink bourbon is however you want to drink it.
Yep. Well, speaking of high rye, and the two foods that you said kind of go with it. And I don't know if it's my palate or my nose being weird, but for the high rye, I do get some barbecue-y, like a tint of light smoke, molasses, kind of barbecue sauce almost on the front of my nose. And then I always keep a water dropper next to me. 2 drops of water then brings out the fruit and the sweetness of it. But like, that was kind of like my first thing. It was like dark nutmeggy and this burnt sugar kind of barbecue sauce, which I thought was kind of weird, but I kept going back to it. I'm like, it's still there. So either my nose is messed up, but you were nodding your head. No one can see that but me. And Scott.
No, I don't think your nose is messed up. I think it's just right, because I get that same hit too. And I don't know if you get like a black pepper on the nose also.
Yep.
But there's something that like, especially with like a pulled pork, that kind of comes out, presents itself to me. I also think the same thing, this may be crazy to say, but with like a Caribbean jerk chicken also. And that's when, you mentioned, Jake, the fruit, like the fruity notes. I think that's where it really gets fun too. So I think the idea of exploration with whiskey and food is endless. Like, what does it taste like with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a bowl of cereal?
Well, I'll tell you this: Trifecta blend would go really well with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Can we talk about Trifecta?
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to. I just drank it. It's got a creamy, smooth peanut butter thing going on that I'm here for, with like some red fruit. My son has thrown away the banana and peanut butter sandwich to go with peanut butter and apple, a Honeycrisp apple and peanut butter. And that is what it is reminding me on my palate, with a little bit of vanilla, and I'm here for it all day and twice on Sunday.
Do you get any like a hit of smoke on the front palate?
There's a pop. There's a kind of a pop, like a salinity almost.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's a really nice whiskey.
It really is. And when I think I was on about a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe with Shaylin, and so your listeners know of Shaylin Gammon, and I will tell you that we had some barrels that I was really excited about, and I suggested to Shaylin that we take the 9-year barrels and turn them into single barrels. And she said, "Great idea, but why don't you taste this?" She sent me a sample and I tasted it. I was like, holy smokes, what is this? She's like, "Well, I decided to blend 6-year, 8-year, and 9-year, and this is what I got." And I'm telling you, those 9-year barrels are truly magical. I mean, they're mythical and wonderful and amazing. But with blending being the art it is, she took 6, 8, 9-year and turned it into something that tasted like heaven. And that's really what I think of Trifecta. I think Trifecta just won double gold in San Francisco. And we'll see what happens. I think I think they announce the best in class in October, but Trifecta's up for it, and so we'll see what happens. I mean, to me, it is one of the best whiskeys of the year, and I think she just truly knocked it out of the park.
And when did this release?
Oh boy, time is I don't do dates well. But,
was it Q1 or was it Q4 last year?
I think it was closer to the end of last year than the beginning of this year. But we've done a really good job of kind of slow playing distribution with it. And that makes me grateful, because in the past, what Blue Run did was, there would be a release and it would sell out. And if you didn't get it, the likelihood is maybe you get a sample from a friend who got it. But the reality is you probably wouldn't get it. And with Trifecta, this is the type of thing that I don't want to run out of. Right. But for your listeners, if you've not tried Trifecta, you should grab a bottle, because it's not something that we can recreate. Once it's gone, and take advantage of this moment in time.
So I had to look it up on this really cool website called bourbonlens.com.
It's a cool one.
I've heard of that.
It was August of last year.
Wow.
When Trifecta hit. Yeah. So it's been quite a while, and it's still available. So you can still find it out there. But this one, it kind of takes you for a ride. Like, when I nosed it, I was like, okay, it's like brown sugar cinnamon, like real big time. I'm like, oh, this is going to be like super, super like cinnamony. But when you get to the palate, it's like super creamy. It's almost like vanilla ice cream, like kind of hard to describe, but there is a little bit of spice in there. And I don't know if it's like woodiness or what, but it does have that, not smoky, but it's got the wood characteristic to it.
I think it's unexpected. Not that I would expect it not to be good, but it's unexpectedly amazing in its. It is well rounded, and it's a little bit like a roller coaster. When you're going up and you hear the tick 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 tick, where my heart starts beating really really fast, and I'm thinking, why am I on this ride? But then the payoff comes, and you get to go down, right? And I think that's the beauty of Trifecta, is you get that tick 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 on the way up, but then you get the thrill of throwing your arms up in the air and going woo. It's got everything. It's got everything. And I think that there is a true art to blending. A lot of people think they can just, take a couple of raw ingredients and throw them together and it should be a great blend. It takes a lot of time and a lot of trial and error. But Shaylin does a lot of this through the nose. Like, she smells, and it's the nose that drives her first and foremost. And I'm really thrilled she didn't take my advice. I'm really thrilled we didn't do 9-year single barrels, because the Trifecta is something that dreams are made of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's good. And, it had been like, I've been a fan of a lot of them along the way. But this one is one that, like, I think just punches just right in my palate. Which I'm a fan of certain things. This kind of hits some of those fruity, fun characteristics, creaminess on the palate. Like, I love the mouthfeel, from that perspective. So big fan of this bottle, and appreciate, the opportunity to drink it. I think, that's what Scott and I kind of live for, is the ability to try the whiskeys along the way.
You can't just talk about it. You actually have to experience, right? And you get the beauty of doing both, and then helping to educate people who've been listening to you for years now about where they can go. And I think, Jake, our palates probably are fairly compatible. But you've explained all the characteristics that I love about Trifecta. And it's it's kind of a sleeping giant too, because if you're not paying attention, it can, it packs a punch.
Yeah, I mean, it's 117.
It's got some proofiness to it. Yeah, it's got some proofiness to it that lingers with you, and you're just like, okay, I'm still getting this.
Yeah,
Yeah, the finish has been one of my favorite parts to it because it does linger with you for a while. And I think a drop of water on this one, again, brings out some additional characteristics. And I just like seeing what those oils do when you separate them a little bit and break down the molecular compounds just a little bit to get some additional flavor. So I think that's been really, really nice to experience this, because it's been a while since I've had a Blue Run whiskey, to be honest. So it's been good to revisit it and try it. And now I'm getting into Five Trail. I was a big fan when it first came out. Got to talk to Peggy really early on in the brand development, and got to try this with Dan and Peggy along the way. And I think people are sleeping on this whiskey in particular, and the SKUs of it bring a lot of flavor. The barrel proof is really good.
Maybe the cask finish.
The cask finish, yeah. Is it sherry cask?
Yes.
Yeah, that one is killer. Big fan of that one. The regular, I think it's 92 proof, is also really good. But the barrel proof and the sherry cask were spot on. Like great flavor profiles. So when you all think about this SKU, and we talked about the experimental, will this continue to expand out much like Blue Run has, where you have, 14, 15 different SKUs at this point? Will Five Trail continue to expand, or will you just kind of hit home in that like I think there's 4 release series that you have now?
Yeah, I think we'll see, because Shaylin's now just getting her hands on all the barrels and trying to map out where the future lies. But for now, I think we're really happy with the 4 SKUs that are out there. And really what we need is we just need more people to try Five Trail, because I think it's, like you said, it's going to open minds, and in a way that need to be opened. And I think we talked about this earlier with American single malt being unique,
Yep.
and not something that I think people necessarily gravitate to immediately. So this is experimental. It is unique to take bourbon and blend it with single malt, and it, for me, I'll just, from my personal experience, it makes it much more approachable than simply a straight single malt, because I can kind of dip a toe. You can dip a toe with the flagship, with that 92 proof that you mentioned, and then you can step up your game with the barrel proof, right? And then you can go take a little a day trip toward the cask finish, and it's like almost like living in a cul-de-sac, right? You get the best of both worlds, and you keep circling around them. But I think Blue Run is generally going to be the brand that's going to have kind of more reach on the SKUs.
Yeah. Well, I have an idea. So Coors at one point was the official beer of showers. I believe I got that correct.
Is that true?
Shower beer?
The shower beer. There was like a whole marketing thing. Now we need it to be the official whiskey and shot at the end of the night. We need Coors Spirits Co. And Coors,
the official nightcap
of a whiskey and a shot. Like that is a great way to get people to try it. It's like you go to Chicago, and I don't mean to compare it this way, but you get a Chicago handshake, and which is Merlot and an old style. You could have a Coors nightcap, and that gets you a Five Trail and a Coors Light to go out at the end of the night. That sounds like a great way to get it in people's repertoire for the evening.
I like that. And also, one of the things that we've been able to do, and you may have seen it around the US, is the connection between Barmen and banquet beer. I don't know if you guys have seen that as well, but there are promotions that run, and in tying those two together. So we could do that as well. I think you might as well come on and maybe help us out with some marketing.
Hey, I'm happy to help.
He wasn't looking for a new job.
Wasn't looking for a new job, but I'm happy to help. But
you never know what happens in the course of an hour when you're chatting with some friends, drinking whiskey, right?
Yeah, you throw out ideas and see if something sticks. That's how Blue Run probably happened. You threw some spaghetti at the refrigerator, and one of them finally stuck, and you ran with it, which is cool. We're all thankful you did that. But there's so much bar culture, right? And that's how you can entice new drinkers. Is like all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, it's time for Coors Nightcap time," and you run a bar promotion, and everyone like, "Oh, hey, it's but I'm a big fan of banquet though, so that I would definitely be more on the banquet than just a regular Coors. My personal opinion, but that's neither here nor there. Gotta love the champagne of beers, right?
It's all part of the family, right?
It is. That was the one thing that surprised me when we met with David. Didn't I read like 50 of the brands off during the podcast? It was like, I was like, oh, you all have this. Oh, you all have that. It was pretty wild.
If you quizzed me, I wouldn't get them all right at this point in time. I mean, it's, it's astounding to even think about this, when I talk about a brand of families just within the whiskey world, and then you think about beer and then the non-alc side, this is a, at least in the US, 150 years of history, which is really cool. And then I learned something the other day on the Molson side. Molson started in Canada when Marie Antoinette and George Washington were in power.
Wow.
You believe that?
So
that is some staying power.
Yeah.
So that's, whenever the country was founded, 1776-ish. That's 250 years of making beer, the finest beer, Canadian beer.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. But one of the things was like growing up, it was kind of like one of those things. You saw the commercials, like you wanted to try a Zima. I got old enough to try Zima. Didn't want to drink a Zima. I got old enough to drink a Labatt Blue. Didn't want to drink a Labatt Blue. So the people that did a really good marketing job, I necessarily didn't like it. I didn't mind the first time I had a Molson. But I was in Canada. I feel like I had to do the Canadian thing.
I think Zima still exists somewhere in the world. When I was in college, we actually couldn't afford Zima, so we had to get a knockoff that was called Eisenklar, KLA, with umlauts on it, R, and that was terrible.
Good thing you're making good whiskey now.
I know, right?
We all had to start somewhere.
Yeah, we all had to start somewhere.
Nothing but the best now, because I've actually had the worst. No offense to the folks behind Eisenklar. I'm sure they're not listening to this podcast today, but if they are, my apologies.
The finest Germans are still drinking it. Don't you worry.
They might be.
They, yeah. I would attempt to speak German right now, but I'm just not going to. I'm too many whiskeys in to even approach it to get it right. But the one thing we haven't talked about, it's kind of like the elephant in the room. And I prepped you for this, so it's really not the elephant. Is there was this pretty property that y'all were going to make a distillery on in Georgetown, Kentucky. Do y'all still approaching that process? What's that look like for you all?
Yeah. So first of all, we love Georgetown, across the street from Toyota, across the street from a place called Country Boy, which is an amazing brewery. I don't know if you guys have been there, but incredible people, incredible food, incredible beer, really cool property. So I wish I had more of an update for you, but at this point in time, we're still in due diligence. There are a lot of environmental boxes to check, and inspections that have to occur. So, we're still a ways out on the due diligence portion of this, but it's in process, and really excited about Georgetown. The people have have opened their arms to us in a way that I have to say a lot of bourbon communities don't. But it's pretty exciting. I'm sure you guys saw the renderings, and that was pretty fun to think through what would it look like if we landed a spaceship in Kentucky.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But, it's always good. We ask the hard-hitting questions here on the Bourbon Lens podcast. We always do that. Scott brings the hard-hitting journalism via the writing, and I ask the hard-hitting questions during the podcast, and they're normally not so hard-hitting because we prepare you for them.
No more beanballs, guys. I can't take another fastball. Some chin music.
Oh.
Next time you're in Georgetown, you have to stop at the Salantia Public House. A guy I went to college with. Really? Okay. Guy I went to college with owns the bar and runs that. So
one of my co-founders named Jesse McKnight and his brother John, who still works with the company, grew up in Georgetown. I don't know if I mentioned that before. So, we spent a lot of time in Georgetown, and I don't know if I've told this story or not, but the way that we came up with the name for Blue Run was we were all standing around this the waterway called Royal Spring. And Scott, you probably know it because you spent some time there. And all of a sudden, Jesse said, when I was growing up, I used to call this the Blue Run. And, it was almost like time stopped, right? For me, he said that. I didn't hear anything else anyone said, but I interrupted and was like, what did you just say? He said, well, I used to call this the Blue Run, and, in his Kentucky twang. And, so I said, why? He said, well, Elijah Craig, was a Baptist minister here, and he had his first church was called the Blue Run Baptist Church. And so we grew up calling this the Blue Run. And, Blue Run is, I don't know. I mean, I'm from the West. So like a run to me means going out for a jog, not like a creek or whatever. Right. And, anyway, it immediately popped, when somebody says something that's so incredible that you just can't think or see anything else. And it was just immediate right there. So big fan of Georgetown. There are a lot of cool little holes in the wall with great food, really nice people. Shout out to Mamie's Gifts there as well. If you're looking for something in Georgetown, a great place to go shopping. It's a wonderful place, but great people. And it's like a slice of Americana at the same time.
And some pretty good golf right around the corner too. Yeah, you can go play the links course there. Kearney Hills. It's a great time.
I feel like, you guys might show up if the door's open.
Oh, I'll be there. I mean, you're 50 minutes away. You don't think I'm in Lexington every Saturday that the Wildcats are playing in the fall? So I always need time to kill or do something on Friday before the game.
And what do you think about Mark Pope?
Oh, come on. Gotta love alumni. All for it.
So I got to tell you, I went to the same high school as Mark Pope. I was a sophomore when he was a senior. I played basketball. He was a lot better and taller than I was. And then he went to the University of Washington where I went. And then he ripped our hearts out and transferred to Kentucky, won a championship, and holy smokes, now he's the coach. So congratulations. You got a great one.
That's a pretty cool story. Yeah, I've been nothing but impressed. And the few basketball players that I was close to when I played ball at Kentucky from a football perspective, they've gotten to meet him. A lot of the guys that are still around Lexington have gotten to meet him, and they just said, open door policy. Like, he's just all about it. He wants to be in the culture, about the culture. It's about the team being for Kentucky. And that's pretty cool to me as an alumni.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the real question as a non-UK sports fan. Are they bringing back the denim uniforms?
You best believe it. They need to for a game. I mean, I literally had the Walter McCarty denim jersey, and I went to it on their 96 national championship like tour. And like we were like playing pickup dribble or whatever in the line to go into the game at Bellarmine. I got so chafed by wearing that damn jersey around and like trying to dribble the ball. I'm like, damn, Converse, like what the hell were you thinking?
It'd be heavy as hell too.
Ugh.
It was a different era.
Oh yeah.
Right. How nice a guy is Walter McCarty though, huh?
Oh man. I mean, there's just story after story, like getting to, because I went to basketball camp when I was a kid at Kentucky, so I got to meet all those people. It's pretty cool to see the legends come around, like what I think of legends come around.
Like Rex.
Oh, Rex Chapman, Dan Issel's around again, Kenny Skywalker. Obviously, you have Goose Givens, who's doing the radio now. But then, like, even having like Jeff Shepard come back and like having his son play, like that's pretty cool. Cameron Mills, Tony Delk, Antoine Walker, Ron Mercer, Derek Anderson, go on and on. Like, it's just cool to see the guys be back around the program because they've not been around the program the last 10 years.
Well, congratulations. I think the sky's the limit with a great coach who hails from the great state of Washington.
Well, you know, the great thing is, right, we just talked about two things Kentucky's known for. Kentucky basketball, but most importantly, Kentucky bourbon with Blue Run Spirits.
I thought you were going to say denim, but anyway.
No, man. I got you. This is what I do as the host. I bring it back. I bring it back to what it's all about. It's all about the whiskey.
They call that a callback.
Yeah. You know, hey,
he's getting kind of good at this after 280 episodes.
Hey, I wasn't the host for the first like 100-ish episodes. I picked up the slack when Michael decided to leave.
That's right. You know, I'm trying to go back in my mind and.
There used to be three of us.
I've been on before. I was on in 2021 maybe, and I think the roles were reversed. Scott, what happened? You get bumped down a seat?
No, we kicked one out.
Yeah,
it was a bet.
There was a third. There was a third, and he gone. Yeah.
COVID forced him to change his lifestyle and move to
6 months.
Whatever it was.
Okay,
not for very long. So
good for him. But Mike, two things need to happen. One, next time you're in town, you need to let us know. And two, we can't let Dave let this go 2 years without you being on the podcast again.
I agree. Maybe we should schedule something, you know, look, you know, I'll show up anytime, anywhere. But I don't want your listeners to get tired of me. Right. So, you know, if I suggest, hey, let's do it every 6 months, like maybe that's a bit much, too much, Mike, for everybody. But look, I'll show up anytime, anywhere. Your turf, my turf, or anywhere in between. It's really fun to talk to you guys, and I think that's why you have such a great following. Is that it's easy and it's fun.
Well, we appreciate that.
I appreciate that for sure.
It's a lot of work to make me fun. Scott, you know, he's the lawyer. He's definitely fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, most lawyers are really, really fun.
Yeah, really dry.
Really, yeah. But man, it's good to catch up. I'm so pumped about the future of the Coors Whiskey Company with all the portfolio, what you may or may not do in Georgetown, what you may or may do in Colorado, wherever the hell y'all are going to land your all's plane. But I know
we're thinking about the moon.
There you go. That's that's not a plane. That would be a spaceship. But just take off. You know, Elon sends up rockets all the time.
Yeah.
But man, it's been great catching up with you. Everyone, if you haven't tried any of these spirits, make sure you're checking them out. Five Trail. If you wanted my recommendation on where to start, just start with the regular proof. Blue Run, you just can't go wrong. Pick up a bottle if you see it, and then Barmen. It is what it is. Go and drink it. It's a one SKU thing. So you got options and go and pick one. So, Mike, keep making good whiskey. We'll keep talking to you, and we'll make sure that the next time is not 2 years from now.
You got yourselves a deal. Thanks for having me on. It's really nice to talk to you.
Appreciate it, man. Definitely. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bourbon Lens. Make sure you're connected with Scott and I via social media on Instagram, X, and Facebook. We'd love to connect. And if you're more the professional type, follow us over on LinkedIn. If you want to know more about Bourbon Lens, make sure you're subscribed to our weekly newsletter, The Weekly Pour. For exclusive content and more, check out Patreon. Follow us there at Bourbon Lens. And last but not least, on your favorite podcast listening app, make sure you're subscribed because every Monday, Scott and I release a podcast, and we would love to have you here listening to the newest features and the newest whiskey news. And until next time, cheers.